The vast emptiness of space suddenly lit up with energy signatures that the Zexian Empire's scout vessel had never encountered before. Captain Drelvor's antenna twitched nervously as he studied the readings on the command console. For 10,000 years, the Zexians had dominated the galaxy, crushing all resistance beneath their six-legged might. "Unknown vessels approaching," Captain, reported the sensor officer, her exoskeleton clicking as she shifted uncomfortably. "Configuration does not match any known species in our database." Drelvor hissed softly. "Impossible. The Empire has cataloged every sentient race in the galaxy." The view screen flickered to life, revealing a fleet of sleek, angular ships. Their hulls gleamed with a silver-blue sheen that seemed to absorb the starlight around them. At the center of the formation was a massive vessel that dwarfed the Zexian scout ship. "This is Admiral John Carter of the Earth Alliance," came a calm, steady voice over the communication channel. "We come seeking peaceful dialogue with the governing powers of this region of space." The Zexian crew exchanged glances. Humans. No such species existed in Imperial records. "Unidentified vessels," Drelvor responded, mandibles clicking with authority. "You have entered territory claimed by the glorious Zexian Empire. Identify your planet of origin and prepare to submit to Imperial authority. All new species must be properly classified and assigned appropriate tribute quotas." There was a pause before Admiral Carter responded. "I'm afraid that won't be possible, Captain. Earth and her colonies are free worlds. We do not submit to outside authority." Drelvor's compound eyes flashed with anger. 10 millennia of unchallenged rule had not prepared the Empire for refusal. "Your insolence will be punished. Submit now or face immediate destruction." On the bridge of the Earth Alliance flagship Defiance, Admiral Carter sighed heavily. First contact had gone exactly as their intelligence had predicted. The Zexian Empire's arrogance was legendary among the few alien refugees who had reached Earth space over the past century. "All ships, defensive formation," Carter ordered quietly. "Activate shields but hold fire unless fired upon." The human fleet shifted with practiced precision, their movements betraying centuries of space combat experience. The ship's energy signatures suddenly spiked as their advanced shield systems activated. "Last warning, unknown species," Drelvor transmitted. "Submit or be destroyed." "We come in peace," Carter replied, "but we will defend ourselves if necessary." The Zexian captain hissed a command, and the scout vessel fired its main weapon, a concentrated beam of particle energy that had obliterated countless civilizations before. The beam struck the Defiance's shields and scattered in a brilliant display of refracted energy. "No effect, Captain," reported the Zexian weapons officer, panic evident in her voice. "Impossible," Drelvor shrieked. "Fire all weapons." The scout ship unleashed its full arsenal, but the human vessel's shields held firm. Admiral Carter watched solemnly as the Zexian ship exhausted its weaponry. "We tried for peace," he said quietly. "Tactical, target their weapons and engines only. Disable, don't destroy." A single pulse from the Defiance's forward batteries sliced through the Zexian ship's defenses like they weren't there. The scout vessel's weapon systems went dark, followed by its engines. "This is Admiral Carter to Zexian vessel. Your ship is disabled, but your life support remains intact. We will provide assistance if needed." On the crippled Zexian ship, Captain Drelvor stared at the view screen in disbelief. For the first time in known history, a Zexian Imperial vessel had been defeated in combat. As emergency systems flickered around him, he realized with horror what this meant. The news would spread. The Empire's veil of invincibility was shattered, and it had taken these humans, these newcomers from nowhere, mere moments to do what no species had accomplished in 10,000 years. The Zexian Empire's long reign was facing its first true challenge. Emperor Krelzar's translucent wings trembled with rage as he crushed the data crystal in his clawed hand. Around the massive obsidian table, 12 of his most trusted war council members watched in fearful silence, The Imperial Palace on Zexia Prime had not witnessed such imperial fury in centuries. Impossible. The Emperor's voice echoed through the chamber. No species has ever defeated our vessels in direct combat. High General Vextal cautiously raised a limb. The reports are verified. Your Magnificence, a fleet of unknown design disabled scout vessel dominance without suffering any damage. The Emperor's compound eyes narrowed. And they call themselves humans. Yes, from a planet called Earth, replied Science Minister Zilva. She activated a holographic display in the center of the table. We have compiled what little we know about them. Their system exists beyond the Crimson Nebula, which our ships have always avoided due to spatial anomalies. The hologram showed a blue-green world orbiting an unremarkable yellow star. How did we miss an entire civilization? Demanded Krulzar. Zilva's antennae drooped slightly. The anomalies around their region of space blocked our long-range sensors. It appears they developed in complete isolation from the rest of the galaxy. Meanwhile, aboard the Earth Alliance flagship Defiance, Admiral Carter reviewed the data collected from their encounter with the Zexian vessel. Chief Science Officer Lisa Morrison pointed to energy readings on her tablet. Their technology is impressive but outdated compared to ours, she explained. It's as if they reached a certain point and just stopped innovating. Carter nodded thoughtfully. When you've ruled unchallenged for 10,000 years, I suppose there's little incentive to improve. Their shields couldn't withstand our phase cannons, added weapons specialist Alan Phillips. The shield technology we developed after the Mars colony crisis gives us a significant advantage. Carter remembered those dark days. Earth had been fractured, with colonies fighting for independence until the Proxima Centauri incident united humanity against a common threat. That unity had forged the Earth Alliance and accelerated technological development beyond anything their ancestors could have imagined. They'll regroup, Carter said quietly. And next time, they'll come with more ships. Back on Zexia Prime, military preparations were already underway. Emperor Krulzar had ordered the mobilization of the 7th Imperial Fleet, comprising 500 warships. These humans must be taught their place immediately, the Emperor declared, before word of this defeat spreads to our subjugated worlds. But it was already too late. Across the Empire, communication channels buzzed with rumors. On the mining world of Terix 9, enslaved Valerians whispered about the alien fleet that had humbled their oppressors. On the agricultural planets of the Outer Rim, Nelvarian workers shared hopeful glances for the first time in generations. The Earth Alliance was equally busy. President Olivia Miller had authorized a reconnaissance mission to gather intelligence on the Empire's true extent. Captain Gordon Hayes commanded the stealth vessel Phantom as it slipped past Imperial patrols. Their empire is massive, Hayes reported during a secure transmission. But it's spread thin. Many worlds appear to be held through fear rather than loyalty. Admiral Carter studied the star charts Hayes transmitted. We'll need allies if we're going to survive what comes next. On the bridge of the Defiance, he watched as his fleet grew. Ships from Earth's colonies had responded to his call, bringing their unique designs and technologies. The freedom humanity had enjoyed in its isolated development had fostered diversity and innovation that the stagnant empire couldn't match. The Zexians have ruled through fear and overwhelming force, Carter told his officers. But they've never faced an enemy that wasn't afraid. And that may be our greatest weapon. As Imperial warships began to gather, the human fleet prepared for a conflict that would reshape the galaxy forever. Captain Eric Daniels stood on the bridge of the Earth Alliance vessel Intrepid, his face illuminated by the glow of tactical displays. 5 human warships hovered silently in the shadow of a small moon, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Imperial Outpost has begun its regular communication cycle, reported Communications Officer Julia Ford. Their shields are at minimum power as expected. Daniels nodded. All ships, prepare to jump. Remember the plan. Hit hard, hit fast, and be gone before reinforcements arrive. The small human strike force had been dispatched to test Imperial defenses following Admiral Carter's first encounter. Their target, Outpost Zexia 12, a communications hub that helped maintain the Empire's grip on this sector. Jump in 3, 2, 1. The human vessels appeared suddenly in orbit around the outpost, their advanced engines leaving no warning of their approach. The station's exterior lights flickered as alarms blared within. Their scrambling defensive systems, reported Tactical Officer Henry Walsh, estimate 40 seconds until full shields. Daniels leaned forward. They won't have 40 seconds. All ships, open fire. Precision beams sliced through the outpost's partial defenses, targeting communication arrays and weapon emplacements with surgical precision. The humans had no intention of causing mass casualties. This was about sending a message. On the outpost, Zexian Commander Greg Toll watched in horror as systems failed around him. Get those shields online. Contact Imperial Fleet Command. Communications are down, Commander. A panicked officer replied. We're being jammed on all frequencies. Within minutes, the outpost's defenses were neutralized. Captain Daniels opened a channel to the crippled station. Zexian Outpost, this is Captain Eric Daniels of the Earth Alliance. Your facility has been disabled, not destroyed. Consider this demonstration of our intentions. The Earth Alliance opposes tyranny, not the Zexian people. Relay that message to your Emperor. Before the Zexians could respond, the human ships vanished, jumping away to safety. News of the attack spread quickly despite Imperial efforts to contain it. On Velnar Prime, a planet subjugated for centuries, Resistance fighters watched leaked footage of the human attack with growing hope. They disabled an Imperial outpost with ease, whispered Resistance leader Kren to his gathered followers. The Empire is not invincible. Similar scenes played out across a dozen worlds as the carefully maintained image of Imperial invincibility began to crack. Lieutenant Samantha Wright stood before a holographic display aboard the Alliance flagship Defiance, presenting her findings to Admiral Carter and his command staff. The Imperial fleet relies on overwhelming numbers and rigid formations, she explained, highlighting tactical simulations. Their ships are powerful but predictable. I've developed maneuvers to exploit these weaknesses. Carter studied the young officer's work with admiration. Impressive analysis, Lieutenant. Implement these tactics across the fleet immediately. Meanwhile, Emperor Krelzar received reports of 5 more strikes against Imperial outposts in rapid succession. Each attack followed the same pattern, precise, disabling key systems rather than destroying them completely, and disappearing before reinforcements arrived. These humans are more dangerous than we realized, High General Vextal admitted. They're not just powerful, they're strategic. The Emperor's wings buzzed with anger. Deploy the 3rd Imperial Armada to crush these insects. I want their ships destroyed and their leaders brought before me. The massive Imperial force gathered, 200 warships strong, and set course for Nexus Station, where intelligence suggested the humans would strike next. They arrived to find the station already under attack, but this time the humans didn't flee. Admiral Carter had anticipated the trap and prepared accordingly. When the Imperial Armada emerged from hyperspace, they found themselves caught between the station and a previously hidden 2nd human fleet. New contact. Multiple vessels, shouted the Imperial commander as human ships appeared on their flanks. Using Lieutenant Wright's tactics, the smaller human fleet executed maneuvers that the rigid Imperial formations couldn't counter. Human vessels slipped between the gaps in Imperial defenses, targeting engines and weapons systems with precision. The Empire has ruled through fear for too long. Admiral Carter transmitted to both fleets. Today marks the beginning of change. As Imperial ships began to fall, the message spread across the galaxy. The Zexian Empire had finally met its match. Ambassador Catherine Green stepped carefully through the crystal halls of the Nelvarian High Council chamber. The tall, willowy aliens watched her with large, silvery eyes that reflected both caution and curiosity. As the first human diplomat to set foot on Nelvar, Green knew this meeting could change the course of the growing conflict. "We thank you for granting us audience," she said, bowing slightly as she had been instructed. "The Earth Alliance comes seeking friendship." The Nelvarian High Speaker, a being of translucent blue skin and flowing white robes, leaned forward. "For 8 centuries, we have endured Zexian rule. Their empire took our resources, our freedom, but allowed us to live. Why should we risk what little we have by joining your resistance?" Green activated a small projector, showing footage of human ships defending a small agricultural world from Imperial reprisals. "Because freedom is worth fighting for, and because together we stand a better chance than alone." Across the chamber, Council Elder Thela spoke softly. "The humans disabled the Imperial garrison orbiting our world rather than destroying it. They show restraint even in warfare. The Nelvarians are known for your advanced medical technology and biological sciences," Green continued. "Together with human military innovations, we could save countless lives across the galaxy." After hours of deliberation, the Nelvarians made their decision. Though pacifists by nature, they would provide medical support and biological expertise to the growing alliance. It was the first diplomatic victory in what would become many. 2 systems away, the scene couldn't have been more different. Commander Paul Jackson ducked as a massive, 4-armed Draxian warrior slammed its battle axe into the wall beside him. "Test your strength, human," the Draxian chieftain Grok bellowed. "Show us you are worthy allies." Jackson had been sent to recruit the fierce Draxians, renowned as the only species that had fought the Zexians to a stalemate before reluctantly joining the Empire. Their warrior culture valued strength above all else. Picking up a ceremonial weapon, Jackson faced the much larger alien. He had been briefed on Draxian customs. This wasn't about winning the fight but showing courage. 3 brutal minutes later, bleeding from several cuts but still standing, Jackson earned a thunderous laugh from Grok. "You fight with heart, small human. The Draxians will join your battle against our hated oppressors." On a dozen worlds, similar scenes played out as human diplomats and military officers reached out to species long subjugated by the Empire. Some joined willingly, others required convincing. But with each new ally, the coalition grew stronger. Admiral Carter reviewed the growing list of allied species with satisfaction. The Empire never expected its subjects to unite. "Some are joining us out of opportunity rather than principle," warned Strategic Officer Frank Miller. "They see the Empire weakening and want to be on the winning side." "Then we'll give them a worthy victory," Carter replied. Meanwhile, on the prison world of Tartarus, Commander Jackson led a daring rescue mission. Imperial prison camps held political dissidents from across the galaxy, potential leaders who could rally their homeworlds to the Coalition's cause. "Security systems offline in 30 seconds, reported tech specialist Laura Wilson as she bypassed Imperial encryptions. "We'll have a 5-minute window." Jackson nodded to his mixed team of humans, Draxians, and Nelvarian medical personnel. "Remember, we're here to free prisoners, not settle scores. Minimal casualties." The operation succeeded beyond expectations. Among the liberated prisoners was former Imperial Governor Dexran, who had been imprisoned for advocating reforms. His knowledge of Imperial protocols and defense systems would prove invaluable. As news of the prison break spread, Imperial control began to fracture further. 3 regional governors declared independence from Zexia Prime, taking their defense fleets with them. On the Imperial throne world, Emperor Krulzar received increasingly disturbing reports. The Coalition now controls 22% of Imperial territory, High General Vextal admitted, and resistance movements have emerged on 47 worlds, including 3 in the core systems. The Emperor's wings vibrated with barely controlled rage. "These humans have turned our subjects against us. Prepare the forbidden weapons. This rebellion ends now." As Imperial scientists entered long-sealed vaults beneath the palace, the galaxy stood on the precipice of even greater destruction. The sky over New Terra burned. not with the gentle orange of sunset, but with the sickly green glow of Imperial superweapons. Colony buildings crumbled as energy beams tore through defensive shields that had never been designed to withstand such power. Admiral Carter watched the live feed from the bridge of the Defiance, his face ashen. New Terra, humanity's furthest colony, had been home to 8 million people. Now evacuation ships flooded the surface as Imperial dreadnoughts continued their merciless bombardment. "The weapons' signatures match nothing in our records," said Science Officer Lisa Morrison, her voice shaking. "It's as if they've been holding back their true capabilities." "They were," replied former Imperial Governor Dex Rand, who had joined the coalition after his rescue. "Those are Void Lances, ancient weapons from the early days of the Empire. They were sealed away because even the Emperor feared their power." Carter's fist tightened. Why New Terra? Why not strike at Earth directly? "A warning," Dex Rand said quietly. "And a test. The Emperor wants to see how you respond to the destruction of one of your worlds before he targets your homeworld." The Emperor's strategy worked. Within hours, the Earth Alliance leadership fractured over how to respond. Inside the Alliance Command Center on Luna Base, voices rose in heated debate. "We should pull back, consolidate our forces around Earth," argued Defense Minister Howard. "We can't match these superweapons. Retreat would abandon our allies and doom the coalition," countered Fleet Admiral Rivera. "We must strike back immediately." As the argument continued, General Susan Martinez quietly approached Admiral Carter with a datapad. "I have a proposal," she said. "It's risky, but it might be our only option." Carter reviewed her plan, eyes widening. "Infiltrate Imperial High Command. That's suicide." "Not with the right operative," Martins replied. "Agent Ryan Cooper has been training with Dex Rand. He can pass as a mid-level Imperial bureaucrat. We need to know more about these weapons, and any others they might deploy." Carter nodded slowly. "Brief Cooper. He leaves immediately." 3 days later, Agent Cooper walked through the gleaming halls of the Imperial Central Command Complex on Zexia Prime. His surgically altered features and carefully cultivated mannerisms allowed him to blend seamlessly with the lower-ranking Zexian officials. Dex Rand's coaching on Imperial protocols had been flawless. "You there, administrative aide," barked a senior military officer. "Bring these plans to the Weapons Division immediately." Cooper bowed in the proper Zexian manner. "At once, Commander." The data crystal he received was his first stroke of luck. In a secure transmission room, he briefly accessed its contents while appearing to check for corruption. What he saw chilled his blood. "Mercury Protocol is authorized," Cooper transmitted in an encrypted burst communication to the Alliance. "Target, Sol System. Weapon, Star Collapsers. Timeline, 3 standard days." The message reached General Martinez as she coordinated with coalition forces. "Star Collapsers?" she asked Dex Rand. The former governor's exoskeleton paled. "The most devastating weapons in Imperial history. They can destabilize a star's core, causing it to go supernova prematurely." "They're going to destroy our sun," Martinez whispered. Emergency meetings convened across coalition space. The Nelvarian scientists offered theoretical countermeasures, while Draxian commanders volunteered their forces for a frontal assault on the Imperial capital. Human tacticians worked through scenarios, each more desperate than the last. Dr. William Grant, Earth's leading physicist, studied the limited data on the Star Collapser technology. "If we can't stop the weapons from deploying, we might be able to create a dimensional buffer that could absorb some of the stellar disruption." "Would it save Earth?" Carter asked bluntly. Grant hesitated. "It might minimize the damage, give us time to evacuate more people, but it won't stop the sun from eventually destabilizing." Meanwhile, Cooper continued his dangerous mission, accessing terminal after terminal in search of the weapon's location. Finally, hidden in maintenance logs, he found what he needed. The massive star collapsers were being prepared aboard the Imperial flagship, Eternal Dominion. His discovery came at a cost. As he transmitted the coordinates, security alarms blared. "Intruder in Section 7," shouted a security officer. "Human spy detected." Cooper ran, knowing his sacrifice would give the Coalition its only chance at survival. As Imperial guards closed in, he sent one final message. "Eternal Dominion. Launching in 6 hours. This is our only shot." Across Coalition space, ships began to move. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin. Space above Zexia Prime erupted into chaos as the Coalition fleet emerged from hyperspace. 273 ships representing 26 species appeared simultaneously, their formation tight and purposeful. At their center, the Earth Alliance flagship Defiance led the charge. "Imperial fleet responding exactly as predicted," reported Lieutenant Samantha Wright, monitoring the tactical display. "They're moving to protect the Eternal Dominion." Admiral Carter nodded grimly. The massive Imperial flagship loomed in the distance, surrounded by a protective screen of warships. Somewhere within its enormous hull were the star collapsers that threatened Earth. "All ships, execute Battle Plan Omega," Carter ordered. "Draxian forces, begin your attack run." The huge, heavily armored Draxian warships moved forward, absorbing the initial barrage of Imperial fire. Behind them, faster human vessels maneuvered into position. Nelvarian medical ships held back, ready to retrieve damaged vessels and treat casualties. Emperor Krelzar watched from his command throne aboard the Eternal Dominion, compound eyes narrowing. "The humans bring their pitiful Coalition to our doorstep," he hissed. "Activate all defense platforms. Launch all fighter squadrons." Thousands of small Imperial craft swarmed from hangars, meeting Coalition fighters in the space between the larger vessels. Explosions blossomed in silent bursts across the battlefield. "We need to get closer to the flagship," Carter said, studying the tactical display. "The star collapsers will be in the central weapons bay." "Their defenses are too strong," replied Captain Olivia Parker, commanding the ground assault team. "We need a diversion." From the edge of the battlefield, Lieutenant Nathan Howard watched the struggle from the bridge of the Alliance vessel Sacrifice. His ship carried an experimental warp core modified by Dr. William Grant. "Admiral, this is Howard," he transmitted. "Request permission to execute Special Maneuver Sierra." There was a pause before Carter responded. "Permission granted, Lieutenant. Your service will be remembered." Howard turned to his volunteer crew. "Set course directly for the Imperial flagship's primary shield generator. Warp core to maximum overload." The Sacrifice accelerated suddenly, engines burning beyond safety limits. Imperial gunners targeted the lone vessel, but it moved too quickly, weaving through defensive fire. In the final seconds before impact, Howard closed his eyes. "For Earth," he whispered. The modified warp core detonated on impact, creating a localized subspace rupture that tore through the flagship's shields. Alarms blared across the Eternal Dominion as systems failed. "Shield generator destroyed," shouted an Imperial officer. "Primary defenses offline." Carter seized the opportunity. "All ships, concentrate fire on these coordinates. Ground teams, prepare for boarding." Coalition vessels punched through the gap in Imperial defenses, launching assault shuttles toward the crippled flagship. Among them was Major Olivia Parker's team, specialists trained for the single purpose of reaching and disabling the star collapsers. 30 seconds to docking," Parker announced to her team. "Remember the plan. We move fast, neutralize resistance, and reach the weapons bay." Their shuttle crashed into a landing bay, the doors blasting open to reveal armed Imperial guards. The Coalition forces charged forward, a mix of human soldiers, Draxian warriors, and even some Nelvarian combat medics. Fighting spread throughout the massive flagship as boarding teams secured critical systems. Parker's team pushed toward the central weapons bay, facing increasingly desperate resistance. "They're falling back to the weapons bay," observed Sergeant Kyle Peterson as they approached massive armored doors. "They're making their last stand there." Parker nodded. "Exactly as we expected." breach charges ready. The doors blew inward, and coalition forces stormed the chamber. Inside stood Emperor Krelzar himself, surrounded by elite guards and chief scientists. Behind them loomed three massive devices, the star collapsers. "You are too late," the Emperor declared. "The weapons are already primed. Your Sol system is doomed." One of the scientists moved to a control panel, but a precise shot from Parker dropped him. The coalition team spread out, engaging the Imperial guards in fierce combat. "Dr. Grant, we've reached the weapons," Parker transmitted as she fought her way forward. "Beginning uplink now." On the Defiance, Dr. Grant received the data stream from the star collapsers. "These are more advanced than we anticipated," he muttered, fingers flying across his console, looking for the abort sequence. As the battle raged around her, Parker planted the quantum disruptors Grant had designed. The Emperor, seeing his guards fall one by one, made a final desperate move. "If I cannot rule the galaxy," Krelzar snarled, "then none shall have it." He slammed his clawed hand onto a crystal embedded in his armor. Throughout the flagship, self-destruct sequences initiated. "We have 90 seconds before this ship tears itself apart," Parker reported. "Grant, we need that abort code now." The final moments would determine the fate of Earth and the galaxy itself. Alarms blared throughout the massive Imperial flagship as its self-destruct sequence counted down. Major Olivia Parker and her team worked frantically around the star collapsers while fighting off the remaining Imperial guards. 30 seconds until this ship breaks apart," shouted Sergeant Peterson, firing his weapon at an approaching Imperial soldier. On the Defiance, Dr. William Grant's fingers flew across his console. "I've almost got it," he muttered. "The Zexian coding is complex, but there's a pattern." Emperor Krelzar laughed, a harsh chittering sound, as he backed toward an escape pod. "Your efforts are futile. Even if you stop these weapons, the Imperial Archive contains thousands of years of technological secrets you will never access." Parker aimed her weapon at the Emperor. "You won't escape to build more weapons." But before she could fire, the deck beneath them shuddered violently. Support beams crashed down, separating the Emperor from the coalition forces. Krelzar seized his opportunity, slipping into an escape pod and launching away from the dying flagship. "Grant, we're out of time," Parker shouted into her communicator. "Got it," Grant exclaimed. "Transmitting abort sequence now." Parker's tablet beeped as it received the code. She quickly entered it into each star collapser's control panel. The ominous hum of the weapons faded as their power cores went dormant. "Weapons neutralized," she reported, "but this ship is still coming apart. We need immediate extraction." Admiral Carter's voice came through clearly. "All teams, return to extraction points. We have 90 seconds before total structural failure." Coalition forces fought their way back through the crumbling flagship. Some didn't make it, sacrificing themselves to ensure others escaped. As the last shuttle cleared the Imperial vessel, the Eternal Dominion broke apart in a series of massive explosions. The Imperial Palace on the planet below suffered a similar fate as Krelzar, reaching its surface, activated a final protocol. Ancient structures housing millennia of Zexian knowledge and technology imploded, denying their secrets to the victorious coalition. "He destroyed their own history rather than let it fall into our hands," Carter observed somberly as reports came in. With the Emperor presumed dead and their capital in chaos, Imperial forces across the galaxy began to surrender or retreat to their home systems. The mighty Zexian Empire, which had stood for 10,000 years, collapsed in a matter of weeks. 3 months later, Admiral John Carter stood in the newly constructed Grand Assembly Hall on neutral territory. Representatives from over 50 species, former Imperial subjects and newcomers alike, gathered for the first meeting of the Galactic Federation Council. The Empire ruled through fear and domination. Carter addressed the assembly. "Our Federation will stand for cooperation and mutual respect. No single species will dictate to others. Together, we will rebuild what war has damaged and create something better than what came before." The applause was thunderous. Species that had been bitter enemies under imperial rule now sat side by side, working toward a common future. Not everyone embraced this new vision. In distant sectors, imperial loyalists established strongholds, vowing to restore the empire's glory. On Earth, some military leaders argued that humanity, having led the liberation, should assume a position of greater authority in the new order. "We defeated the greatest empire in galactic history," General Richard Coleman told a private meeting of Earth Alliance officials. "We should be leading this federation, not just participating in it." President Olivia Miller disagreed. "That thinking leads down the same path the Zexians took. We fought for freedom, not to become the new oppressors." As the Federation took its first uncertain steps, exploration vessels discovered evidence that Emperor Krulzar had survived. Rumors spread of Imperial remnants gathering in the uncharted regions beyond known space. Admiral Carter, now serving as Earth's representative to the Federation Council, watched the stars from his office window. The liberation had succeeded beyond anyone's expectations, but he knew the peace remained fragile. "We ended one chapter of galactic history," he told his aide. "But the story is far from over." Across the stars, new alliances formed and old wounds began to heal. Species that had never known freedom embraced it with both caution and hope. The galaxy had entered a new era, one shaped by the unexpected arrival of a human fleet that had shattered an empire and changed the course of history forever.